Okay, hey, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, folks. Sorry for the technical difficulties. Hopefully, we'll be able to get things started in about 5 minutes or so. Um, I'm not sure about the other instance, but if anyone's in that other instance or communicating with them, might be good to let them know that this other instance exists. Okay, yeah, some people are still having problems getting on the, into the meeting or into the right version of the meeting. We'll just wait about 5 minutes and then we'll get started. If you are having problems getting into the right session or you're seeing something strange, try reloading the screen. That seems to help. You should be seeing the slides. I'm basically sharing my PowerPoint just like deck, and I'm on the first slide, just waiting there for people to join. So that's what hopefully you're seeing. There's about 30 of us in here. The only other thing, I mean, you could always try restarting whatever browser. I'm using Firefox, but Firefox, Chrome, they both seem to work fairly well. If you just completely close that down, you maybe could even try just clearing your cache and then re-entering in case there's anything left over from a previous instance. That might help. I guess that's part of the spirit of the hackathon, right? We're testing out new things. The latest and greatest version of MeetEcho isn't the only new thing we're testing out. There's a few other things I'll share during the course of the slides, but just mentioning them here, we have some new networking capabilities that will hopefully, if all goes well, it seems to be working pretty well for me, allow you kind of a virtual seat at a table where you can all be connected to your own kind of network, the IETF network, kind of similar to the way we've had the ability to request special networking situations, like if you wanted a wired connection and you wanted certain things set up there, prefix delegation, certain IPv4, v6 addresses, various things we can do. So there's some info in the wiki. I'll talk about that more when I get to that slide. But just to mention that to you, for me, that's been a little bit of a hackathon project in and of itself, with the guys in the NOC like Clemens and Joe doing all the real heavy lifting. I've just been kind of the test subject there. And hey, if I can get it working, I'm sure the rest of you will have an easy time with it. And then, of course, the gather.town space, which we have, and I'll go through that a little bit more too. But that's a way that we can try to connect, hopefully, a bit better around tables and be able to talk to each other. You can use the chat capability within there. There's even some whiteboards. I'll maybe spend a little bit of time demoing that, although it's new to me too. So I'll share with you what little I've learned so far, and then cut you loose to check that out yourself. And again, we'll be using that for the IETF meeting, but we're a week early. That's why we're testing out some of these things, including the gather.town space. Just got put together late last night. In terms of sending video, I suppose I could do that. This is me. I'm sending video now. And I think, it's 5 after. I know there may be some people who's still having problems getting connected, but we're going to go ahead and get started. So let me do this. Okay, well, welcome to the IETF Hackathon online. I'm calling in from California, and I'm sure the rest of you are all over the place. Hopefully this time zone, we tried to pick a slot that was minimally painful for people. But as we'll discuss during the course of this kickoff, the idea is that you have the whole week to kind of arrange times that work for you. So obviously this is our first time doing this online IETF hackathon. And there's going to be some wrinkles along the way, but hopefully some things that are actually really, really good too. Getting the negatives out of the way, we had a hard time with the connecting here initially, and we unfortunately won't have cool T-shirts to give out this time around, but we do have the whole week, and we have different tools which will help us, and I think that'll be kind of fun to try out and see, and obviously having a whole week gives us more time to get things done, and we don't have to travel. So we're using, hopefully this is useful in and of itself for you, for your projects, but also this is something where we plan on iterating on this. Hopefully we're able to get together for the next hackathon physically, but some of the things we work on here will make it so much easier and better for people to participate remotely in the IETF meeting and the hackathon. And so I think we're gonna get some real benefit out of it in that sense too. So for those of you who this is your first IETF event, first I want to welcome you to the IETF. Most things go a little bit smoother than this, but thanks for bearing with us on getting this kicked off. And I hope this is a good experience for you and a good introduction to the IETF. It's certainly not your traditional kind of regular IETF experience, but I hope that you find it a very welcoming experience and useful for you, and a good way to get started with the IETF by focusing on code, and if you're a software developer, kind of the skill set that you bring to the table, as opposed to kind of the more traditional reading a draft and participating in email lists and that type of thing. If this is your first IETF hackathon, great. Obviously it's a little bit different for you, but it's kind of a new experience for all of us. So just realize that none of us have done a virtual hackathon before. Several of us though have done many hackathons. So I know me personally, I'm wearing, don't know if you can see my IETF hackathon shirt here. This is from one of the times we were in Prague. I have plenty of these shirts to wear a different one each day of this week. And I'm sure many of your fellow hackathon participants do as well. So, we have a lot of experience with the hackathon in the more traditional sense of being in a room, and happy to try to help you. You can reach out to me personally, or to others, reach out to the various champions of the projects. You should be able to find their email addresses in the wiki, and I'll go over that a bit more later. But we're here to help you have a good hackathon, a good IETF experience. That's a big part of it. So don't worry about bothering people, asking questions, especially today, but until you get kind of situated in a team. And then once you figure out a team where you have a good fit and working on a hackathon project in the end, the rest of it should come really easy. And hopefully you stick around and plan on attending the IETF meeting next week. As we'll discuss, a big part of the hackathon is testing things out, learning things which we can then bring into the IETF meeting and share during the course of the working sessions that we have. That's really one of the primary drivers. So in order to get the really complete experience, joining the hackathon, figuring some things out, and then bringing that in and sharing it with the IETF at large, and figuring out the impact it has on the things we're standardizing. That's really a big goal. And so I encourage you to do that, and I hope you have that opportunity. Already covered some of this just a second ago, but really the reason why we're here, why we have this hackathon, is to try to speed up the work that's going on in the IETF. and really bring some of that collaborative spirit that we have with open source and that we've seen in the open source community, and bring that into the IETF to test out some of the things the thoughts we have before we actually go too far along with standardizing something, to hopefully produce some running code that, so when the standard is available, you not only have the standard that you can, the draft that you can read and then go to implement, but you actually have some running code that either helps you with implementing it, testing it, integrating support for that new, say, protocol or whatever it is into your product, into your solution. And we certainly want to attract new people to the IETF by bringing another mechanism, I would say, of contributing. It's not just about writing and reviewing and updating drafts, but actually producing code that hopefully verifies that what we're standardizing is correct. But if there's big issues in it, finding that out earlier on is obviously very beneficial too. So,
Charles?
Yeah.
This is Barry. I don't see your slides changing. Do you mean to have slides changing?
The slides are not updating?
No. It still shows the IETF Hackathon main slide, title slide. There you go.
Interesting. Okay. Hey, thanks for letting me know that.
Yep.
Okay, so I guess presentation view doesn't work. All right, I'll just advance through them this way. And hopefully, actually, what can I do here? I can make that a little bit bigger, right? Okay. And let me make this a little bit bigger too, so. Okay. So let's see. So I just covered that. And the note well, for those of you who this is your first IETF, this may seem a little bit new to you. Most of you, though, I would imagine have already seen this. Certainly when you registered for the IETF meeting, when you registered for the hackathon, you actually had to click on something to review and say you acknowledge the note well. It talks about the rules under which we're operating here. If you haven't had a good look at it, please do, just to familiarize yourself with it so you understand what you're agreeing to. Because this IETF hackathon is operated under the terms of the note well, as everything within the IETF is. One thing that is a little bit different is because we are focusing on code, the code that you're working on is not an IETF contribution, at least not necessarily. The terms and conditions of the code you're working on are as determined by the license that hopefully is clearly indicated on the code you're working on, whether it's open source or proprietary, and who the owners of that code are and what rights they give to you and that type of thing. So you're welcome to work on whatever code base you want. It's not an IETF contribution unless you explicitly made it an IETF contribution. However, the discussions you have, the presentations, we'll talk about doing presentations at the end. Those are IETF contributions and do fall under the terms of the note well. Okay, projects. So all of the projects are listed on the wiki. Last I checked, we had 17 projects there. I'm imagining there's a couple more since I put these slides together. So your best source of information to find out details about all the projects is to go to the wiki, see what information the project champions have put there. They've all been good about putting their email address or the way that they want to be contacted. And so I encourage you to reach out to them that way. Make sure that they know that, hey, I find your project very interesting. I'd like to work with you on it. If you haven't done that already, now's a fine time to do that. If you are having a tough time finding a project, another option we have is this lost and found page. There's a link to it in the wiki, in that main hackathon wiki. And you can go there and you can put down, hey, these are, my interests. These are skills I have to offer, as we put it. And similarly, if you're leading a project and there's certain things where, hey, you really need someone with a certain skill set or familiarity with certain IETF drafts that are being worked on or something like that, you can put it here. So this page is meant to be kind of a living page during the course of this week. If you're put yourself up there and then you get attached to a project, you could remove yourself just so that people know, hey, I'm already working on something. If you're open to working on multiple projects, then that's fine too. So encourage you to use this as a resource, in addition to what's in the wiki. So the agenda, I guess I need to update this slide. We started a little late, but really the main bulk of the work is going to happen after this and throughout the whole week. We realized that people's schedules are different, time zones all over the world. So rather than try to meet during set chunks of time as a whole group, like we do for the kickoff and the closing, throughout the week, the idea is that each team can kind of decide on their own agenda, when they want to meet, how often they want to meet, how they want to meet. And so we created this team schedule page to facilitate that or to help with that. You can see several teams have added information there already, whether they're going to use WebEx to meet. You can try using the gather.town space that I'll show you. But you can just use email, whatever works. This is a place where champions, if you haven't done it yet, I just either in the wiki or on this page, I would put how you best want people to engage with your team. Of course, your email address is a good start, but if there's something else you've decided on, if we're going to use a certain technology for all of you to communicate with each other, that'd be good to put there. I mentioned gather.town, and we'll talk about that a bit more in a minute, but that's a new option too. And then Friday, we'll have a closing, and the idea there is primarily to give each of you the opportunity to present a bit about your project and what you learned and things that you want to bring back into the IETF meeting and have kind of more continued discussion or work around. And I'll talk about that more later. It will be probably about an hour, I guess, maybe up to 2 hours, depending on how many teams want to present. And so we'll figure that out. I have the space reserved for 2 hours. I don't think we'll need the full 2 hours, but just for your own planning purposes, if you could schedule or plan on being up to 2 hours, that would be great. Okay, gather.town. If you haven't checked it out yet, you probably haven't because it just started, came online today, but you may have done a test space or something like that. The link is in the wiki. I also put it on these slides, and these slides and my presentation, it's all actually available. I'll give you the link for that before this is over as well. But this is what our space looks like. There's basically kind of similar to if you were at the actual hackathon. We have a bunch of tables with a lot of chairs around it, and you can see they're lettered. So if you want, you're welcome for your team to go and grab, like say, hey, we're going to use table F, and that's where your team can sort of gather. And this is me. I was kind of hanging out in the space. We might spend a little bit of time demoing or playing around with it, but basically you walk up to one of these tables and you kind of get a seat at the table. I forget, you interact with it by either pressing the space bar or just clicking on the seat. And then once you're at a table, it's using WebRTC, and it's all peer-to-peer communication. So you establish an audio and or video session with the other people who are at this table by sitting in one of the chairs, and you have your own kind of little, audio video conference going on right there. This kind of is its own space or its own pod, and you can enter and leave that space. One thing I will warn you, each time you have a new person come in, there's maybe 10 chairs there, but you will be all in kind of peer-to-peer communication with each other. With 3 or 4 people, I've used it, it works great. I understand up to about 5 or 6, it works pretty well. After that, it's, I guess one of the problems is even just resources on your own computer and how it handles all these audio and video sessions. So you may find some difficulty if you get 10 people at your table. And so you'll just have to manage that with people kind of hanging out around the table maybe. And you can use chat and other mechanisms too. So use it as a way to, figure out what works best for your team. But it's there. I would play around with it. And this little thing here, this is kind of a whiteboard. You can go and interact using that, which could be kind of handy too. So, so give that a try. When you first enter the space, this is what it'll look like. You'll come into a kind of an area that looks like this, and you can see there's a map of the overall space. And if I was to zoom out, this entrance area that I'm looking at on the left-hand side, I zoomed out, so it's this bottom part here. Where we are in the hackathon is over here, and it's labeled the IETF Lounge, much like it often is at a regular IETF meeting. So you can go in, you can navigate around in the space and come join us here in the hackathon. When you first go to gather.town, you'll get a script, something like this that asks you if you want to enter the space. I guess you can log in, create an account and all that. Personally, I didn't do that. And you don't have to. You can enter the space without logging in and just put your name. And so you're welcome to give that a try. I'm sure there's some benefits to logging in that I haven't looked into yet in terms of it retaining information about you that might be handy. But anyways, if you just want to test it out, it's very easy and quick to get started with it. And so far from what I've seen, it's working pretty well. And I should have lots of time for questions at the end. So if you have been asking questions or putting things in the chat and I'm missing it, sorry about that. I'm still getting used to how this works. Oh yeah, there is a handy guide that will explain things much better than I did. And so you're welcome to, there's a link to this in the wiki, and lots of great information there. One thing I want to point out is at the bottom, there's a thing about reporting issues, and I believe that would give you an email address to which you can report issues. But also, that's a great way to suggest like, hey, this space is fantastic, but if it only did this, it would have been even better for us. Because from what I've seen, the folks from gather.town, they are able to add new functionality in there. They're able to update our map within reason, right? It's like anything else. It's kind of a platform, and they try to add new capabilities. So if there's something that would help us use their existing capabilities, or maybe some features they could enable for us, this is a good way to iterate on that too. It seems like this could be a handy tool. We're thinking this could be a handy tool to facilitate remote communication, not just for the hackathon, but obviously for the IETF in general. So please give it a try and see what you think. And if it works great for you, fantastic. If it doesn't, no big deal. But I do think it's something worth trying out during the course of the week. Okay, network request. So typically at an IETF meeting, and at the hackathon, for those of you who haven't been there before, you come in and there's tables and you're able to connect to the IETF wireless network, and away you go. Now some teams have equipment that they want to be able to plug in physically, and so they request a drop to their cable so they can just plug in wired connection to the IETF network. And then some people request special networking capabilities. So within their team, they want to be testing out something new. They want a specific environment set up, and we do the best we can to accommodate those requests as well. So this is something that we thought we wouldn't be able to do with a virtual hackathon, but thanks to the NOC team, they've actually put together an ability to handle this. And for example, I have a Raspberry Pi here, and it's connected into IETF-virtual network. So it's actually as if I'm, sitting physically there, and I get the networking aspects of that. And I have a little wireless card on here so I can connect to it. I have a dongle I got where it converts from USB to Ethernet. So I'm going to play around with that a little bit, plugging other things into it through a wired connection. But anyways, it seems like it could be, depending on your project, having that like common network that you can all be using and sit on and get whatever capabilities you need could be super handy. So there's information here in the wiki about how to request it, but basically you send an email to this address, and then the folks in the NOC, they'll share with you how you can build out your Raspberry Pi. And there's certain Raspberry Pi 2 and later they support right now, and I know there's some other devices they're working on as well. So this list of supported devices will hopefully grow. And again, this is kind of a hackathon project in and of itself. So, but so far it seems to be working really well. My Raspberry Pi has been up and working several days without any problems. I'm not presenting through it right now because there is a bit more latency in it, but it's actually pretty good. Oh, the other thing I should point out, don't connect to it just instead of using your regular network. It's not meant for like everyone in the IETF to be using it. It's really meant for hackathon teams that need specific network capabilities that their ISP or whatever doesn't provide them. So you can VPN into, this kind of shared network space for you and your team. That's really what we're trying to create there. Okay, project presentations. So on Friday, this is what we'll do. This is optional, of course, but I highly recommend that you spend some time to put together a short presentation. I'm thinking about 5 minutes would be good. That's a little bit more than we typically do, but because we're remote, because we have, I'm guessing, fewer people presenting, fewer teams than we typically would in in-person hackathon, that 5 minutes will give you a little bit more time and be a good amount of time for you really to describe what you did. And this is helpful not just for those participating in the hackathon, but I suspect a large number of people will join that who actually didn't get to participate in the hackathon because they'll want to see what people did do. And it's also a very handy way for you to get your thoughts together for what you do want to bring back into your working group. And then have a record of it, so later on when people want to see what you worked on and the impact of it, they can access all those resources. So encourage you to do it. The thing we do to share these presentations is basically in GitHub, there's an IETF-hackathon GitHub org. And we've created an IETF108 project presentations repo there. And that's where all of the presentations will go. So I'm sure all of you are probably familiar with GitHub by now. And if you check out that project, that repo, the README there has some instructions about how to go about using that. So the first thing is, in order to be able to have access to this, basically in order to be a committer to that project and to upload your presentation or to change it throughout the course of the week, or you will need to be a member of the IETF Hackathon org. You don't need this in order to read what's there, but in order to write anything. That's just the way we're handling the write capabilities. So to become a member is very easy. You can just send me an email. But I do ask you for your GitHub profile. Please be sure to put your name there. It just helps because GitHub email IDs are pretty cryptic, And this at least gives us a little more confidence in who we're actually talking to, that we have the right person. Also, I asked you to enable two-factor authentication. There's just been a lot of GitHub accounts being credentials being used to access people's accounts and then cause problems. So we don't want that for you. We don't want that for our GitHub org. So add your name, enable two-factor authentication, and then send me an email, and I'll gladly add you to the project. And the links for this and everything are on the wiki as well. One other thing I think, oh yeah, I like to mention this, do this sooner rather than later. Don't wait till like Thursday night or Friday morning, your time, because I might be asleep. So I might not get you added in time. So even though you don't have anything to upload yet, just during the course of the next few days, whenever it's convenient, send me an email and I'll go ahead and get you added. What was I trying to, oh, yes. So another thing you'll find in that repo, in addition to the README, is we have this template. And it's optional to use, but many people find this very handy. It is in PowerPoint. If that's useful for you, go ahead, download that, and you can use that as a template to build your presentation. It's just, it just reminds you of the types of things we're looking for, like what you tried to achieve and what you actually did learn, and who was on the team, open source code that you used or communities that you interacted with. It just kind of is a little bit helpful, and many people find that a good way to put their presentation together. I think it just gives you a good idea of the type of information we're looking for. So feel free to use that if that is helpful. I should also mention something we're going to do a little bit different this time around. Normally, everyone sends their presentations to us, and then Barry and I kind of run through the presentations and drive it all from one laptop. Since we're using Meetecho, I think it'll probably work fine, hopefully, for each of you to share your presentation. Learn from me, and so don't try to use presentation mode or figure out how to do it correctly so that your slides advance. But that way you'll have control. You'll be able to, you can share your whole screen if you want to, like if you wanted to do a demo or something like that. So I think that's what we're going to do, and give that a try. I think that'd be better than us driving all the presentations, but still really ask you to please upload your presentation into this repo so that everyone can access it. Okay, and that's pretty much it, but I did want to thank our sponsors for this. ICANN has sponsored the last several IETF hackathons, and they're sponsoring us again. Our cost basis is different, but we are using some new tools and have some new capabilities. So we still do have costs with putting these events on, not to mention just everyone's time in making things happen. The Secretariat has done a ton of work, so really appreciate all their efforts too. And then my group at Cisco has been helpful as well. And so with that, let me try to answer any questions I can. Let's see. Karen, right, the slides. So the slides, actually, let me do this. I'm going to share my whole screen, I think. Well, the slides are in this GitHub repo. There's actually a third thing there now. In addition to the presentation template, you'll find the latest version. It's a PDF version of the slides I'm presenting, and it has all the links in it as well. I'm actually going to stop sharing for a minute, and I'm going to share my screen now, and I can show you a few other things. I'm going to share entire screen. Okay. So let's go back here, and I mentioned gather.town. Here's the guidelines for that, but here's the link for gather.town. And if I go and enter in there, you can see it already knows me. So I already entered into this space, and I'm just going to zoom out. But as I mentioned before, you start here at the bottom, and then you kind of just come up and go to the right. And now I could go and hang out at one of these tables here. And if other people came and joined me, we could interact there. This might be interesting, but we can, hello, Wheatner. So you get an idea. If you're close to each other, you basically enter into a conference with those around you. So you can create these ad hoc conferences anywhere you want. But the idea with the table is if you sit at a table, that's kind of a more set group where your audio will be confined only to those at the table, and you can actually, intentionally, I guess, sit at a table or leave the table and then use the whiteboard. So when I did that, were you able to see what I was sharing, or did you just have this strange mirror effect the whole time? Like when I show you the gather.town, I can't look at both at the same time right now, but just wondering how that worked for people. Anyways, I'm going to stop sharing my screen. It looks fine when you're showing gather.town. Okay, great. Any other questions? Are there any team champions here who had some questions about the team schedule or how to use gather.com if they wanted? Okay. One other thing, and I don't know the latest on this, but with gather.town, I believe there was a 50-person limit in it. And I'm not sure exactly what happens when the 51st person tries to enter. But we were going to see about getting that limit removed or at least increased. That's something that we may hit during the hackathon. If you run into it, you can just report that issue by sending an email to the link that's mentioned in the guidelines that I shared before, and we'll see what we can do. Okay, let's see. folks hear me now. I think I've been sending audio. No audio from Charles either. I'm back now. Okay. Sorry about that. I don't know if it was an error on my part or something with MeetEcho. Basically done with the kickoff presentation. Any other questions? What's the best way to join, find a team? Okay, well, let me share the wiki and I will kind of run through that. So you should be seeing my screen now. And this is the wiki. Let me make it a little bit bigger. So the best way to find a team is if you scroll down in the wiki and you'll see information about all the teams here. So last I checked, there was 17 teams. You can read a bit about each project here, what it is they're looking to do, and the team champions, how to contact them, email address or whatever they've put there. So I would encourage you to give these a look and just try to narrow it down to the ones that you think are of interest to you, and then contact the champion. That's the best way to get started. But then one of the things we've put in place for the throughout the course of the week, the way for these teams to help meet with each other is for your team, you can put what times, what days, and how you plan on working with each other. You can see, people putting the way they plan to communicate here, whether it's using Slack, WebEx, using gather.town, right? There's various options. You're welcome to use whatever works best for you and for your team. So complete flexibility there. You can decide what works, how often and when and where you want to meet. The other thing was the lost and found. And to get to the lost and found is here. And so if you're looking to join a team, or if your team needs someone and you want to advertise that you explicitly need, there's certain things that you need, you can go to this page. You can see we don't have many people there yet, but the idea is you can add yourself here at any time. And so project champions, I encourage you to add something here or come and take a look and see who's in here and what it is they're looking to do and how they could help you. So that's something you can do as well. And then I guess the other thing would be you can go through the gather.town space too and look around in there. Although I think the gather.town space isn't really necessarily the best way to find a team, I wouldn't say. I think by reaching out to the team champion and that type of thing is a better way to get started with the team. But of course, you can go to the gather.town space and you can go around the hackathon. And once you know which team you want to participate on, or if you're participating in a certain team and you're like, hey, the folks in the BGP group, we really want to work with them. Let me see which table they're at. And you can go over and chat with them. So I see, there's several people at the F table already. So we have a group, working there. And I welcome you to go around and interact within this space. Like I said, we used it a lot in preparing for the hackathon. So I think you might find this a handy way to work together. And like I said, my experience seems to be 3 to 5 people is kind of a good how many people you can have at a table, but experiment with that some too. If you have a better system and don't have too many other things going on, it might work a bit better. Also, I don't know how well the audio and video work if you're in the middle of a Meetecho session. But I can see people who have come close to me, and I would have had the opportunity to chat with them. Any other questions? So if you want to speak, I believe you can request the mic. There's a way here to enter the audio queue. And then if you enter the audio queue, hopefully I'll figure out how to how to give you the floor to speak, or Barry will. Okay, so you clicked on enter the audio queue. Okay, so I guess if I do that, I would be granting audio. Can you talk now?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yep.
Hello, this is Alexandru Petrescu, and I'm situated in France. My question is about this the floor plan that you show on GatherTown, and it's a wonderful idea. I could walk around and see the spaces, even see the photo of coffee, and maybe something to eat there. It's a wonderful idea. It works on IPv6, but I cannot connect to the people who are there. I went to my table of interest and I pressed X to interact, and it says connecting. And the person in question says he has not received anything from me. So I wonder whether other people have connected on their tables or not.
Okay, yeah, it should work. So, and it certainly worked for me. What I suggest if you're having problems connecting is if you you go to within the Hackathon wiki, there's the Gather guidelines, and so you can access those, and it gives you some tips for how to interact with Gather.town space. But then there's this thing for reporting issues, and so it's mtd@ietf.org. And from what I've seen, they're pretty responsive. So you can let them know that you're having some problems. Because certainly in my little bit of testing, I didn't have any problems interacting. Yeah, hi, Paul.
Okay, so when we present the hackathon achievement this Friday, so we just okay, you can make some schedule, right, for teams, right? So okay, maybe it'll be good. You make some schedule for presentation, so it'll be easier. Okay.
Yeah, that's actually a good idea. I think if for those teams that know they want to present, go ahead and let me know. You can send me an email. I'll kind of break it up into 5-minute slots, which will be our rough plan. And
Okay.
if you have any time constraints, you can let me know. Otherwise, I'll just kind of put teams in order.
Okay, sure. Okay, thank you. Yeah.
So yeah, good idea. We'll set that up since we have a little bit more time than we usually do to put together. Yep, and when you're done speaking, I think you can remove yourself from the queue too. Let's see, questions down here. Okay, any other questions? The best way to reach me is probably via email. I will be in the gather.town space at times, but not all day, every day. So if you see me in there, you're welcome to come up and chat with me there. You can send me an email. My email address is in the wiki. And you could always send something to the hackathon list too, if you if you need help. But probably, unless you have something that you really want to share that you think is helpful to everyone, probably better to just send to me. Dieter, I don't see you requesting audio. I don't know if you want to speak, you should request audio, okay?
I'm sorry, but I'm not sure how I entered the queue actually.
Oh. Well, I think you should be able to just click on one of the icons to leave the queue also. Is my understanding, once you're in the queue, you'll see, if you just go to the same way that you basically entered the queue, you should be able to leave the queue that way. Yeah, Alex. Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
is it possible to see the queue? So I can see the queue, who is in the queue, who is in the line.
So I can see the queue. I don't know, but that's because Barry and I are the chairs, so we have different capabilities than you might have. So I don't know if you see the queue. I'm sharing my screen, I believe. So if you're seeing my screen, then you should be able to see the queue that way. But that's only because I'm sharing my screen.
The screen is a mirror, infinite mirror.
If you go to the top of the participants list, you'll see the queue.
Everyone can see the queue, Karen, is that true?
Yes, everyone can see the queue.
Okay.
So you've got the chat window, and then you have like the participants one that's currently 65. And it currently shows, for example, you and me speaking.
Yep. Yeah, I can see that. I just wasn't sure if everyone was on that or if it was different.
Yeah.
Great.
Video queue.
Yep. You're in the queue, but I granted you the ability. Audio. Were you trying to share a video or a presentation or something?
Excuse me.
Yep.
Yes.
I granted you audio and video if you want it.
Okay, and video. Okay.
So you can see how
Okay.
your video showed up over here.
Oh, it's not good. Okay, hold on. Yeah, because my video is taken with. Yeah. Okay, good. Thank you very much. I will stop my video and my audio.
Okay. And there are sessions which I think I'm going to go take again about using MeetEcho and a lot of the new capabilities that are in there. For those of you like myself who typically join the meeting in person, there's a lot you can do in MeetEcho, and a lot of new capabilities have been added for this meeting, which are great, but it kind of helps if you play around with them and experiment with them a little bit. So I know guides have been put out that help, explicitly to help with that purpose. So I know I'm going to brush up on that. We won't be using MeetEcho necessarily throughout the week, but we will use it on Friday for the presentation. So for those of you who are presenting, especially, good to make sure you're more familiar with it, and I'll make sure to do that too before Friday. So hopefully our use of MeetEcho will be a little bit smoother. But between then, and let me go back to the agenda here. You can see we have until Friday. It's just basically for now until then. It's for teams to work on their projects, and so I think I'm going to go ahead and end this session in just a minute, and encourage all of you to go off and work on your projects. But again, feel free to reach out to the project champions. You can find their email addresses in the wiki. The wiki is your main guide. All the links are in the wiki, including the links to the GitHub org. And from there, you can download the presentation that I shared. So I would, go to the wiki. If you don't find what you need there, you can go to the team schedule, which is links to it are in the agenda here, and the gather.town space. And of course, email, you can always reach me that way as well. So I hope this has been helpful for you. I hope this whole week goes really well. It's great to be able to use this time to work on our projects, and to learn how to do this better too is an important thing. But like I said, I hope that this isn't just a learning experience for how to do the hackathon better, but that you actually can really get a lot of great work done on your hackathon projects. It's different than when we're all there together in person, but there's some things that hopefully work better too. So not the least of which is we have a whole week to do it. So thank you, everyone. I appreciate your time. My apologies, it took a while to get started, but thanks for hanging in with us. Hope you have a great week, and I'll talk to you again Friday, if not sooner.